Hi, and welcome to Ask Cam, or sort of probably more appropriately, Ask Cam and Nesta. So we're joined today by Katie King from Nesta, who have a money-saving boiler challenge, which is, I think, obviously something that a lot of us are going to be needing through this winter. So thank you, Katie, for joining me. First off, I guess, can you tell us a little bit more, Katie, about Nesta and about what you do?
Sure, thanks for having me, Rosie. So Nesta, we're a charity, and my team focus on reducing carbon emissions in UK homes. So helping people to use less energy and reduce their impact on the environment.
Fantastic. So yeah, I think as I say, it's obviously something that is on a lot of people's minds at the moment. And maybe I know predominantly people are coming at reducing energy from a cost point of view at the moment. But obviously, the sort of knock-on benefit of that is that we'll sort of in turn reduce carbon emissions as well, which is always a benefit to the environment. So let's talk a little bit more sort of specifically about the boiler challenge. Like, what's the aim behind it?
So at Nesta, we knew people, we know where people are worried about their energy bills. We know that the cost is going up. And then this winter, people want to save money as much as they can. And saving energy is a good way to do that. And that's why we launched the Money Saving Boiler Challenge. Essentially, it's a little known tip that you can change your boiler settings and you can save money by doing so. And we've created a really simple step-by-step online tool on our website on moneysavingboilerchallenge.com. And it helps people to save money and energy just by changing a single setting on their boiler. And to go into a bit more detail, essentially the website guides you through making this change. It's only for those that have a combi boiler, so people who don't have a hot water tank. And essentially what you're doing is you're changing the temperature of the water that goes to your radiators. So I guess I quite often use the example of if you were driving a car from home to work, if you drove really fast, you'd use more petrol in that journey than if you were going slower. It's more efficient to drive slowly, and it's more efficient to have your heating running a bit slower. So at the moment, quite a lot of people have their radiators heating up to 80 degrees, which is almost scaldingly hot if you touch them. And that's really inefficient. If you can lower that temperature to 60, which is what we're suggesting, it's more efficient, and it's like driving a bit slower and using less gas for the same heat. So your rooms will still hit the temperature you set on the thermostat. They might just take a little bit longer to reach that temperature, but overall it's a lot more efficient, and you're getting more for your money.
Fantastic. So I think it was kind of news to me. I said when I first came across the boiler challenge, I sort of thought I had no idea. And as it happens, I'm very lucky that our plumber is really switched on to loads of these things. So when he installed our boiler, he set our flow temperatures at the right space, and they are at 60. But again, it was really quite quick and straightforward for me to go and check that, and then just be able to make sure that I didn't need to do any adjusting. And it kind of gave me a bit of an oversight, having followed through the process on the website, which I found really straightforward, and it just helped to explain it a lot more easily. Before we go any further, I'm just going to sort of mention as well that if anyone is tuned in and watching live, we can sort of take questions if anyone has any questions about the boiler challenge and wants to add them into the chat. Please feel free, essentially just sort of comments below the post on whichever platform you're watching on. But so we'll sort of go ahead. So I've obviously sort of maybe touched on this, but in terms of how complicated it is it a complicated process, or should people be able to find it sort of reasonably straightforward?
So it's really quick. It takes less time than boiling a kettle. It's really quick, and you can always change it back. If you don't like it, there's nothing to lose by trying it. So it is really simple, but we do recommend you follow our instructions. What our instructions show is if you have buttons or if you have dials, which buttons or which dials to press. Every boiler is slightly different, but our tool has simplified it so that it makes it really easy to just follow the instructions. And just to say that this is the radiator temperature, like the water that goes around your radiators. There's also a separate setting, which is the temperature of the water that goes to your taps and comes out your shower. And that's a different setting. So if you change the setting using our tool, it will only change the temperature of the water around your radiators. It won't change your tap water temperature. That's a separate setting.
Okay, fair enough. And I guess that's probably sort of a sort of follow-on question, if you like, if someone sort of did want to look at changing their water temperature as well as their boiler temperature, is it a similar process? Are there similar temperatures, or should we be looking for different things when it comes to what your water needs to be?
So it is also a good idea to lower your water temperature. Like, lots of people, again, have it set so that their water is almost scaldingly hot out the tap. And actually, you don't need it to be that hot, and you will save some money. It's not as big a saving as changing your radiator settings, but it's still worth doing. This is where it's really important to know whether you have a combi boiler or not. So if you're not sure whether you have a combi boiler or not, the best thing to do is to set the temperature to 65 rather than 60. But if you know you don't have a hot water tank, and you've definitely got a combi boiler, and that's the way you'll know, is you won't have a hot water cylinder. There won't be a cupboard anywhere that has a big tank in it. If you know that, then it's totally fine to turn down your radiator setting to 60 or lower, and your hot water setting, you can go down to 42 degrees. Again, you can try it, see how you find it. 42 is obviously a lot lower than some people have their water, but that's usually a good temperature for a shower. So it's almost like when you have a shower, you're mixing hot and cold water together. In this way, it's almost like you're turning on the hot water tap, and it is 42 degrees. So lots of people find that works for them. And obviously it depends as well if you wash up using tap water, because you might prefer to have a slightly hotter temperature to wash your dishes. But again, it's a really simple setting that you can change yourself. If you have dials on your boiler, there'll be 2 dials, one for radiators, one for your tap water. If you've got buttons, there'll be a button that has a radiator symbol on it and a button that has a tap on it. And that's how you can change the 2 separately. So both are good tips. Our money saving boiler challenge focuses on the radiator temperature because it's the biggest saving. But yep, you can change both. And my advice would be to try, if you've got a combi boiler, try it. Try going lower, see how you find it. You might find that 42 works really well for you, and that you find that the 60-degree radiators works well. And then you know that you set your system up as efficiently as you can.
Yeah, thanks. That's really sort of comprehensive and really good advice. Like you say, by turning it down, it doesn't mean you can't turn it back up again if it doesn't work for you. But yeah, I think it's, as you say, it's just good to sort of experiment. And if you sort of find out that you sort of feel like this just isn't working, at least you can go back to the way you were. But definitely worth checking. So if we've obviously sort of talked about sort of how people can do it, how people know if they're getting the right kind of, if they've got the right kind of boiler and those kinds of things. We talked about savings as well. So how much potentially could someone save by, if they did go all the way down to 60 on their heating, how much could that save somebody per year?
So a typical household, which is based on a 3-bedroom house with 2 to 3 occupants, who are using their heating. I think the thing to say is, obviously, if you're using your heating a lot, you're going to save more. And if you're not using your heating as much, you won't save as much. But a typical household could save £112 on an annual bill. And so let's just assume this typical household spends £1,200 on gas a year. That would be a 9% saving to save £112. So it's a pretty substantial amount if you're using that much gas. And then also, just to say, the way that we got to this figure is we did some tests with some academics at the University of Salford, and they actually have a Victorian terrace house that they have moved into a warehouse, and they can do all these controlled experiments. So it's almost like a lab where they can put the whole warehouse at 4-degree temperature, which is the average winter temperature, and then they can run over a 24-hour period a usual heating pattern using an 80-degree flow temperature, and then they can do exactly the same thing again using a 60. And that's how they found that this saving amount was by doing a kind of a lab experiment to show that the saving amount.
Yeah, that's like I've heard about Salford University's fantastic like eco house sort of, and yeah, I'm so intrigued by it because I think it's a fantastic sort of idea and gives us obviously loads more insight into what we can do to save energy while obviously also keeping people safe and well, and like not just we know unfortunately the temptation at the moment is just to like switch off your switch off everything and switch off the heating, and actually obviously that's going to have a knock-on impact for people's health and well-being. So it's about how can we help you to reduce your costs while also keeping you safe and warm through the winter. So I think this is just going to be fantastic for a lot of people, and as you say, like that sort of 9% on a sort of typical household average bill. And obviously we know that the word typical gets thrown around a lot, and almost a lot of people aren't typical households, if you like, but obviously that's still a sort of significant saving, even if you're not fully like definitely technically typical. So yeah, I think that's really fantastic. And as you say, I think what I'm just going to do is pop up a little banner along the bottom of the screen there. So that's the website that people need to go to. So that will kind of as you say, there's a really easy and straightforward like walkthrough process on the website. So we sort of shouldn't need to kind of demonstrate, if you like, the kind of the process that people need to go through. But hopefully that like people will be able to access that website and take themselves through the process and be able to check their own boiler temperatures. I think it's really exciting. Is there anything else that you wanted to sort of tell us about the challenge, or anything else that we kind of need to be looking out for when it comes to boiler temperatures?
So I think only to say that nearly 150,000 people have gone through the tool, which has saved a lot of money. And if we think about 10 million households could do this, and that would save about £1 billion on energy bills over a year. And then that would also be the equivalent of nearly 6 million transatlantic flights not taking off. So yeah, it's a really big impact you can have. And again, something to try, see how you find it, and then tell other people about it as well. It's one of those things where it's a lesser known tip, and I think lots of people don't know about it. So it's definitely something. I've definitely gone around and turned down a few boilers when I've gone to people's houses. And the only thing to say is if you do change someone's settings, just make sure they know what you've done, and just tell them about this, and then they can obviously go and change the settings back if they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't just go around changing people's boilers without their permission or without their understanding of how to get it back if they don't like it. Also, is it just worth touching on how does this impact if someone's sort of insulation like that? Because we know that obviously lots of homes in the UK have varying levels of insulation. So if someone's home isn't particularly well insulated, is this going to work as well for them, or is it going to be a bit more challenging?
So I think the thing is to try it, because 60 is quite a conservative, like we've gone for a kind of most houses can use 60. You might find your house is particularly drafty or particularly inefficient, and that might mean that when you have the radiators are cooler, you're finding that it's not heating up as hot as you would like. And so our recommendation would be just to turn it back up again, but not fully to 80. Why not try 65? Why not try 70? The lower the better. And if you have a really, really well insulated house, you can try going lower than 60. Just to say, there is technology out there that does this for you. So on cold days, it turns the radiators up a bit, and on cooler days, it turns them down. It's called weather compensation, and some people will have a boiler that can do that, or they'll have heating controls that can do that. but that does cost, hundreds of pounds to install. So this is a way of doing it yourself, making that saving without having to install all the tech.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I think that's obviously, we know, unfortunately, a lot of the things that will kind of make your house a little bit warmer do cost people money, but this is obviously something completely free, completely available to a lot of households. Obviously, it depending on the type of heating system you have, but it is a much easier way to do it. I think as well, it's worth pointing out that if your house is particularly drafty and you're struggling in that respect, that draft proofing is something that you can do. And again, we have some tips around how to do that for either completely for free or at least at very, very low cost. Obviously, there are more expensive ways of getting sort of really intense draft proofing, but at least to try and sort of reduce some of that chill. So I'll post links in the comments section again after this. So if you're watching on catch up, you can make sure that you know where to find all of that information. And again, we'll post some links to some really good videos showing you how to do that, taking you through it step by step, which is always really handy. Yeah, I think just as well, what I will also do and post in the comments underneath is just a reminder that if you are struggling with your energy bills and energy advice, our energy advice team are here to help. We're working alongside both Cadent Gas and Electricity North West, which means that we've got a huge raft of energy advisors who are here to help you if you're struggling. And I'll pop all the contact details for those teams in the link in the sort of comments below. But thank you so much for your time, Katie. I think it's hopefully we're going to be able to help a lot of people go and check out their boiler temperatures. So thank you very much for joining me,
Rosie. Yeah, it's brilliant. And yeah, please do go to the website. You can also, at Nesta on Twitter and ask questions. We'll get back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you.